Imagine you had a button. One press and every genetic variant linked to schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and psychosis is gone. Erased from every human being on Earth. Forever. The suffering disappears. The hospitalizations, the crises, the families torn apart. Most people would press it. But here is what you might also erase. The next Van Gogh. The next Newton. The next Einstein. Not because mental illness creates genius, but because some of the same biological risk factors that increase vulnerability also overlap with traits that can fuel creativity. And that forces a question we almost never ask. What if the instability is not just a bug? What if, in a small percentage of people, it's part of the design? Let's start with what the data actually suggests. Large population genetic studies have found that people carrying higher genetic risk for certain psychiatric conditions are overrepresented in creative professions. And it gets more unsettling. A major Swedish registry study looked at diagnosed patients and their close relatives, siblings, parents, family members who never developed the disorder. Even those healthy relatives, on average, entered creative fields at higher rates than the general population. That matters because it hints at something uncomfortable. The same genetic architecture can show up in different ways. And then, neuroscience adds another layer. When researchers compared highly creative brains to typical brains, the creative networks were not simply more organized. In many cases, they were more unpredictable, more globally connected, more willing to link distant ideas that most people would never connect. A regular mind takes the safe route. A creative mind takes the strange route. Sometimes the route is brilliant. Sometimes it's dangerous. So here is the framework I want you to remember. Make it simple. Make it sharp. 3 variables. Connectivity, sensitivity, control. Connectivity is the ability to link unrelated concepts. The higher it is, the more original your thinking can become. Sensitivity is how much raw input your brain takes in. Emotional signals, sensory detail, patterns, threat cues, meaning that other people filter out. Control is the regulator. Sleep, emotional stability, executive function, the ability to steer the first 2 without being consumed by them. When you have high connectivity and high sensitivity, and control is stable, the output can look like genius. You finish things. You build things. You create something coherent. But when control collapses, the same traits flip. The same sensitivity becomes overload. The same connectivity becomes noise. The same pattern seeking becomes paranoia. Same operating system. Different parameter settings. Some research on attention and filtering supports this idea. Highly creative people often show lower filtering of stimuli. They notice what others ignore. They connect what others dismiss. That can be a gift. But if the system can't regulate, it becomes overwhelm. And this is where people get the story wrong. They say genius and madness are 2 different worlds. But the more accurate picture is darker. It can be the same world, the same mind, the same machinery, just pushed past a tipping point. History gives us examples, but we usually edit out the cost. Van Gogh created extraordinary work while his life was falling apart. Newton could obsess for days, barely sleeping, locked onto problems most people can't even hold in their mind. Churchill called his depression the black dog, and described it as something that never truly left him. But here is the line that matters. Their work did not come from suffering. It came from traits, skill, and time. The illness was the distortion, not the source. But the traits and the vulnerability may share a root. And if you rip out the root, you might lose both. Now let's talk about the part people avoid because it's not poetic. Stigma. For many people with psychiatric diagnoses, the damage is not only the symptoms, it's the shame. research suggests a large portion of people with mental health disorders internalize stigma. They start to believe they are less than, broken, dangerous, not fully human. And there is a cruel paradox here. Medicine tried to reduce stigma by saying, this is biological. This is the brain. Not a moral failure, but in many cases, that framing backfires because the public hears biology and translates it into something colder, permanent, unfixable, different species, like broken hardware you can't reason with. Then media makes it worse. In films, the mentally ill person is either a violent monster or a magical genius. Both are fantasies. Both do harm. The real story is quieter and more tragic. Most people living with these conditions are trying to keep a job, maintain relationships, survive ordinary life. And when shame becomes internal, people stop seeking help. They hide. They shrink. The diagnosis can be managed, but the shame can kill. So now zoom out. Every major expansion of what society calls normal has followed the same pattern. Traits once treated as evil or diseased later became recognized as human variation, and that raises an uncomfortable idea. What if some of these genetic variants are not evolutionary errors waiting to be deleted? What if they are trade-offs, tools, a way for a small percentage of any population to perceive differently, connect differently, resist consensus reality long enough to replace it with something new? If that's true, then eliminating these variants doesn't just reduce suffering. It also reduces divergence. A species like that becomes more stable, more efficient, more predictable, and potentially less capable of the kind of leap that built every civilization you've ever lived in. Let me be clear. This is not an argument against treatment. People in crisis deserve care. Full stop. But there is a difference between treating suffering and erasing difference. And that line matters more than most people realize, because we are moving toward a world where we can edit risk out of the genome. The question is, what else gets edited out with it? The World Health Organization defines mental health not as the absence of disorder, but as the ability to cope with stress, realize potential, and contribute to community. By that definition, many people with diagnoses are mentally healthier than the normal people who look fine on the outside but are collapsing quietly. Maybe the spectrum is not genius on one side and madness on the other. Maybe it's a single continuum of human variation, and every one of us sits somewhere on it. So the question is not, how do we fix the people at the edge? The question is, what does a civilization that actually needs those people look like? One that doesn't pathologize the gift while abandoning the person. One that builds support and stability around high sensitivity and high connectivity, so it becomes contribution instead of collapse. That civilization has never existed, but for the first time, we are scientifically positioned to build it. Maybe the goal was never to eliminate instability. Maybe the goal is to stop wasting it. Now tell me in the comments, do you think normal is a line or a spectrum? And if it's a spectrum, where does that leave the people we've been pushing off the edge? I read every comment,